Imagine a man born into a simple farming family. No wealth, no power, no royal lineage, no titles of grandeur. He was not a prodigy born into privilege, nor a hero forged in luxury. He was just a man who believed that freedom was the birthright of every human being. But one day, he would shake the world, and he would become the first president of the United States of America. That man was George Washington, Commander-in-Chief of the American forces during the Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783. America in the early 18th century was vast, wild, and largely untouched by modern civilization. Amid the forests and tobacco fields of Virginia, on February 22, 1732, a boy named George Washington was born. He was no aristocrat, no scion of wealth. His father, Augustine Washington, was a hard-working tobacco farmer, building a modest life in the English colonies. His mother, Mary Ball Washington, was strict yet loving. A discipline and resolve she instilled in young George, shaping him into a man of integrity, courage, and endurance. At the age of 11, George lost his father. His family was not poor, but far from wealthy. He grew up learning the value of hard work, discipline, and respect for the land he walked upon. By 16, George was drawn to mathematics and geography, skills that would later guide him into the military. As a teenager, he worked as a surveyor, exploring Virginia's untamed frontier. Here, he learned strategy, terrain, and resilience, lessons that would forge him into a disciplined, calculated, and tactically minded leader. From the land, he learned one invaluable truth. Every inch of soil has value, and every freedom comes at a price that must be fought for. At 21, the call of the military could no longer be ignored. In 1754, he joined the British colonial forces during the French and Indian War, a global conflict between Britain and France over control of North America. The young Washington became a junior officer in the Virginia militia under British command. His first mission, a small expedition into western Pennsylvania to challenge French fortifications. It ended in defeat at Fort Necessity. His troops scattered, and Washington was forced to surrender, a humiliating start for any officer. Yet from this early failure, he learned a vital lesson. Courage without discipline is meaningless. Despite the setback, Britain recognized his potential. Washington continued to serve, gradually earning a reputation as a bold and wise leader. He studied British military tactics, lessons he would later apply against them in the fight for American independence. One truth became clear: victory depends not just on strength, but on steadfastness of spirit. By the 1760s, Britain began imposing harsh policies on the American colonies to recoup the costs of war and extract revenue. New taxes and trade restrictions inflamed the colonists. 1764, heavy taxes on sugar and molasses. 1765, every document, newspaper, and official letter required a stamp. 1767, taxes on essential goods like glass, paper, and tea. 1773, granting the British East India Company a monopoly on tea, crushing local merchants. The colonists felt oppressed. They had no representation in Parliament, yet were forced to pay heavy taxes. Their rallying cry echoed through the colonies: "No taxation without representation." Tensions erupted in April 1775, when British troops clashed with colonial militias at Lexington and Concord. A small skirmish ignited a revolution. Soon after, the Second Continental Congress convened in Philadelphia, selecting a leader to command the American forces. One name rose above all: George Washington, a Virginian known for his honesty, discipline, and unwavering integrity. He accepted the position without pay, driven by a single purpose: to free his people from tyranny. The war was brutal, Britain fielded professional soldiers with advanced weaponry, while Washington commanded farmers, laborers, and inexperienced youths. The winter of 1777 at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, became the darkest chapter of his leadership. His troops lacked food, clothing, and medicine. Over 2,000 men perished from hunger and disease. Many considered surrender. Yet Washington never abandoned them. Moving from tent to tent, he calmed his starving soldiers with quiet, resolute words. "We do not fight for personal glory. We fight so that our children may live in freedom." Through that harsh winter, Washington renewed their spirit. He brought in European military trainers, including Baron von Steuben, who drilled the army into discipline and order. By spring, the once shattered militia rose as a stronger, cohesive fighting force. 6 years of war had passed. Thousands were dead. Towns lay in ashes. Yet the flame of independence never dimmed. In 1781, a decisive opportunity arose. British forces under General Cornwallis were encamped at Yorktown, Virginia. Washington, with support from French forces led by General Rochambeau, launched a decisive assault. Weeks of relentless bombardment, land and sea, left the British with no escape. On October 19, 1781, Cornwallis surrendered. America had won. The world watched in disbelief. A small, underestimated colony had triumphed over the mightiest empire on earth. After the war, Washington returned home to Mount Vernon. Many urged him to become king, a symbol of the new nation's glory. He smiled and declined. "Greater than I did not fight for power. I fought for liberty and justice for my people." He chose instead a life of modest retirement, managing his estate and living peacefully with his wife, Martha Washington. His decision amazed the world. Few leaders have ever refused absolute power when offered freely. 2 years later, the U.S. Constitution was written, and leaders sought someone trustworthy to lead the fledgling nation. Without debate, without campaigning, all eyes turned to George Washington. On April 30th, 1789, he was inaugurated as the first president of the United States. As president, Washington laid the foundation for governance, established the departments of Treasury, Defense, and Foreign Affairs, created a fair system of law and justice, avoided political parties to maintain national unity. After 2 terms, he stepped down in 1797. No drama, no ambition. In a world intoxicated by power, Washington reminded the world, leadership is not a stage for glory, but a solemn trust to uphold. True honor comes not from title, but from selfless service. In retirement, he returned to Mount Vernon, farming, writing letters, and receiving dignitaries from across the globe. On December 14, 1799, at age 67, George Washington passed away from a rapidly progressing throat infection after exposure to a harsh winter rain. All of America mourned. Citizens lit candles, and soldiers lowered flags to half-mast in tribute. He is remembered not only for victories on the battlefield, but for his humility, morality, and courage to reject absolute power. Washington did more than lead armies to victory. He led a nation to independence. He proved that true leadership lies not in the power one holds, but in the courage to relinquish it. Today, his name still shines, forever remembered as the father of his country.